Hi, I'm Paul Kyogan from GK Tuition, and in this video I want to talk to you about an exam question from 2017 paper 1. It's question 4 part A. Okay? In this question we're told that the percentage of substance in solution decreases exponentially over time. We're given a table for the first 4 days. So after 1 day only 95% of it remains in solution. After 4 days only 8.6% remains in solution. We're asked to work out what is the first day on which the percentage that remains in solution is less than 0.01%. Okay? Now the key word there's a lot of information in that question, but the one buzzword that you should have highlighted is the word exponential. Okay? And it's decreasing exponentially. Okay? You should recognize that this is a sequences and series question. If you go to sequences and series in your log tables, you'll see that there's two types of sequences and series on the Leaving Cert course. There's arithmetic sequences and there's geometric sequences. Another word for a geometric sequence is exponential. Okay, an exponential, if something is decreasing exponentially, that means it's a geometric sequence. So because it told me it's decreasing exponentially, that means I'm dealing with sequences and series and I'm dealing with geometric sequences. And I've been asked to work out what is the first day in which the percentage of substance in solution, or in other words, this number, what's the first day in which this number is less than 0.01? So I want to know, when is Tn less than 0.01? When is Tn less than 0.01? Okay, so you'll notice I've already started a bit of the work here. If I know it's a geometric sequence, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my A and I'm going to get my OR. A is the first term, so the first term clearly is 95. And OR is referred to as the common ratio. So the common ratio is Tn divided by Tn minus 1. Or in other words, it's any term divided by the previous term. You'll notice because this is an exponential sequence, any term divided by the previous term will always give me the same answer. So I took the second term, divided it by the first term, and I got 0.45. So the common ratio in this case is 0.45. Now let's ignore the inequality for the moment. Let's just work out when is this going to be equal to 0.01. So I want to know when is Tn equal to 0.01. When I get to my answer, I'll worry about when is it less than that. So there's a formula in my log tables for Tn of a geometric sequence. I know that Tn is equal to A or to the power of n minus 1. And obviously in this case what I'm looking for is my n. N is the number of days. And I know that Tn is 0.01. So I want to know when is this going to be equal to 0.01. So instead of Tn, I'm going to sub in 0.01. Instead of A, I can sub in 95. Instead of OR, I can sub in 0.45 to the power of n minus 1. Okay, so now clearly my only unknown is n. If I have one equation, one unknown, then happy days, I'm going to be able to find my n. If your unknown is in the power, the first thing that needs to come into your head is that you need to use logs. Okay, so you should recognize my unknown is in the power. I'm going to have to introduce ln at some point here. But a very common mistake is that a lot of students will introduce ln now. They'll recognize, right, my unknown is in the power, and they'll introduce ln. But before you do that, you have to isolate the term that has a power in it. So you have to isolate your 0.45 to the power of n minus 1. So in other words, I want to get rid of the 95. To get rid of the 95, I'm going to divide both sides by 95. So my next line is 0.01 over 95 is equal to 0.45 to the power of n minus 1. Okay, so let's continue on from the top. Now that I've isolated the term with the unknown in the power, now I'm going to introduce my logs. Now I know there's a lot of students have different methods of doing this, so if you do it differently, that's fine. I find that this is the nicest way of doing it. So my unknown is in the power means I have to introduce logs. So I'm going to introduce the natural log. The natural log is ln. And when you're introducing logs, it literally just means that you're sticking ln in front of both sides. So I'm literally putting ln in front of my left-hand side and ln in front of my right-hand side. And that's as complicated as it gets. Now, the reason I introduced ln is because now I can apply the rules of logs. If you go to page 21 in your log tables, you'll see the rules of logs. in the middle column on page 21, they set out all the different rules of logs. And it's the third one that we're concerned with here. If I've log of something to a power, I can just bring the power in front. So the power just comes in front. It's just n minus 1 times ln 0.45. So I'm just applying my third rule of logs in that case. And for the moment, let's just leave the left-hand side exactly as it is. Now, I want to isolate my n minus 1. So I need to bring the ln 0.45 across. So I'm going to divide both sides by ln 0.45. And if I do that, my left-hand side becomes ln 0.01 over 95. Make sure you put that in brackets. Divided by ln 0.45. And clearly, if I want to get n on its own, I'm just going to add 1 to both sides. So I get n is equal to ln 0.01 over 95 divided by ln 0.45 plus 1. And now these are all numbers. I can just plug them all into my calculator. And if I start at the top over here, I'm going to get n is equal to 12.47. Okay, so if you just plug all that into your calculator, you get n is equal to 12.47. But still, this is very tricky now. Look at the wording at the end of the question. I was asked, on what day is the percentage of substance in solution less than 0.01? I know that after 12.47 days, it's going to be less than 0.01. So I think your inclination here would be to say that it's on the 13th day. But that's not the answer. It never said, it never asked me, it never says it has to be the start of the day. So for example, I know that on the 12th day, there's a little bit more than 0.01%. And on the 13th day, there's a little bit less. So on the 13th day, at the start of the 13th day, there's less than 0.01. But that's not the answer, because I don't care that it's not the start of the day. I now know that halfway through the 12th day, there's less than 0.01%. So after 12 and a half days, there's less than 0.01% of substance in solution. So that means the first day on which the percentage of substance in solution is less than 0.01 is the 12th day. Halfway through the 12th day or during the 12th day. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. Again, if that doesn't make sense, just send me an email or let me know in class, and hopefully I'll be able to explain it differently.